Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Small Talk. I'm Amy, this is my partner Maggie.
Hello.
Together we are ThinkerThemer, and this is the series where we take things a bit slower, have a bit of a chit chat. We've forgotten our cup of tea. We used to have a cup of tea all the time. But today we will be talking about some small box games and also covering some IAQs, which are our infrequently asked questions.
Yes.
If you ask us a question in the comments, generally speaking, we will answer it. If we miss it, which sometimes we do, please repost it because, they get posted in all different places, but we do try and collate them to run through in each of these episodes. We always start these episodes with a postcard update because after our 5,000 subscribers, we asked for you all to send us postcards, and over 100 people have, which is absolutely incredible. We've got a few more today. And I'll get things started with one from New Zealand. New Zealand boy. And that's really exciting because I'm actually from New Zealand. I'm from Wellington.
True story.
And this is coming from Michelle, who is part of the Joey fam. So thank you so much for supporting the channel, Michelle. And Michelle writes, love your channel and all the ways you interact with the viewers. Hope you find a small space on your wall for this, which we absolutely will. Yeah. Michelle is actually not from New Zealand, but from the UK originally, and has sent us this little kiwi to go on the wall, which is super cute.
Super cute.
And I can't wait to get it up there and have New Zealand represented. So thank you so much, Michelle, for sending that through.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes. Now, I've got one here from Flo from Ravensburg. Now, Flo says, already as a child, board games have been a big part of my life. Maybe that is because we lived so close to Ravensburg.
Of
so
course.
many amazing games.
Amazing.
Yeah, come from. Greetings from the home of so many of my favorite games. Thank you so much for this,
Thank
Flo.
you so much, Flo, for sending that
It looks
through.
really beautiful as well.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yes.
Looks, I miss Europe so much.
We will be back
And travel.
soon. Yes,
I
we
know.
will get to travel soon.
And the next one is also from Joey Fam members, Jess and James, who have sent us this cute little duck, as you can see it here. They are both based in Australia, actually in Canberra. And they write, thank you for being such lovely content creators. Thank you. That's really lovely. It has been something I didn't know I needed to see two fabulous women discussing board games. I really hope we can meet one day, play a game together, even though James and I are Care Bears that have very different play styles to you both. We're not that mean, really. We're really competitive, but we're not mean.
And definitely not outside of just the two of us. Like usually I think we won't be mean to it's more with each other that we...
And Maggie hates take that
and I don't
in
like
games. So
meanness in general.
You're pretty much a Care Bear yourself, really. We just happen to like competitive games and not co-op games.
Yes.
There's also an IAQ on here, which I'll leave for a little bit until we get to that section. But I did want to say that Jess and James didn't just send this postcard, but also sent us some Hanafuda cards. So these are playing cards from Japan, and this happens to be the Nintendo set that is Mario themed. So it's got all the characters of Mario throughout this deck of cards. I actually didn't realize. So in case you missed it, in an episode of Back Chat, I went down a deep rabbit hole about Hanafuda cards and all of the Southeast Asian countries that play with these cards, which is a flower deck.
Yes.
And there's all these different games that you can play. And I had no idea about the set of cards.
Yes.
But the cards themselves are quite tiny.
Yes.
And they're more like little
like they're quite thick. It's
Yeah,
almost
like
a plastic.
solid-
Is it like a plastic? What material would that be?
No, I think it's just a thick card, but
Okay.
it's like
Yeah.
it's like coated in like quite a premium kind of. These are made by Nintendo, and Nintendo, that's how their business got started, was making these cards. Absolutely incredible. And I'd said that I really wanted to look for a Nintendo pack, and they have kindly sent me theirs, and that is so wonderful. And we've started learning some. Maggie, you were looking into a solo game, of course.
There's a solo version because apparently there's like a Hawaii version of Hanafuda.
Yes.
and
of games,
with using Hanafuda cards. And so there was a solitaire version, which looked like, I'm intrigued by it. It looks fairly simple because I think the aim of it is more to learn the cards, because there's a lot of memorization or learning the different sets. It's
because
not the most intuitive thing.
Yeah, because the suits are there's 12 of them around each of the months of the year. Yeah, so it's a really just interesting system, and of course there's lots of different games you can play. One of the games I was learning had a lot of like push your luck, and so I can see how they were actually used in gambling, because it's like you either stop when you have a set or you like continue.
Koi.
So
you're gambling that you're going to be able to make another set before anyone else does. Otherwise, they get double points or something crazy.
So I'm really interested to continue learning and get this out when there's just more than the two of us for one of those more like gambly games. I think it would be kind of fun with a group of friends, and we could have some tokens that represent like not actual money, and not going to swindle our friends out of some money. But thank you so much, James and Jess, for sending this generous gift through. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Now, my next one is a beautiful postcard from Hawaii. This is actually from Tara, who has sent us a postcard in the past. So Tara's been doing some travel, and Tara says, this is from Hawaii, currently in Hawaii, the Big Island. This is my version of Hawaii. My mom is a biologist whose main research site is the national park. So I grew up spending summers here, hiking through the cloud forest, thick tree ferns, and is it ohia trees? I think it's ohia trees. Currently staying in a cabin that is cozy and tucked in the fern. Perfect place for playing board games. That does sound beautiful, and the card is so beautiful because it's all the kind of flora and fauna in Hawaii's Volcanoes National Park.
So we've been keeping in touch with Tara on our Discord as well, and I was saying to her that we're just living vicariously through her, because she's on this amazing trip going to all of these places,
so nice,
and we have not been traveling for a while, and it's just making me like itch to get back to travel. I'm super excited.
Happen soon. Yes. So thank you, Tara.
Thank you so much for continuing to send us postcards on your travels. We really appreciate it. So I thought that we've got some IAQs to go through, but just a bit of an update of what's been happening with us this week. We did come out of lockdown, the world's longest lockdown here in Melbourne, the most number of days. And it was so we had filmed back chat early, and then we had like a week of like intense kind of coming back out into the world. And it was like kind of, it's been staggered, so the shops aren't open or anything, but we were able to get our gaming group back together.
Yes, that was awesome. It's like you don't realize how much you miss it until you knew how much you missed it, but it's like you don't remember how good it is until you're actually there, and you're like, oh, that's right. It's a completely different dimension of gaming.
So different. And I didn't realize how much I was missing that, and how energizing it is that when you sit down and you play with friends, it's not only, obviously there's the social element, but you get to experience the game in such a different way, because you're also responding to how your friends are interpreting the game, and if they're enjoying themselves, it's like, you get more excited because they're excited, and like the teach, like I really miss the teach. That was like really fun, and to be able to like help someone learn a new game, like I really had missed that. I didn't realize that I was missing that. But we had a lot of laughs. A lot of good times.
I found that I shift gears when there's more, when it's not just Amy. It's like, because it completely for me doesn't become about winning the game. It's I'm more there for just the socializing, and I'm more curious as to like, what people are enjoying about the game, or particularly if you're teaching it, you're also kind of almost like looking after them, making sure that they know what they're doing, or that they feel comfortable, and that they're having a good time.
We met up with two of our good friends who we have regular game nights with, and my sister joined us as well. So there were 5 of us playing games. And what's really cool as well is when you have more players around the table, everyone's pursuing a different strategy, and it gives you so much insight into the game itself as well. Like I'd forgotten about that, because obviously when it's just you and I playing, we're limited, and if we're both pursuing the same strategy, we're not learning more about the broader game or like different ways of thinking and different pursuit of victory points. It's
and I think of like sometimes games really come alive at that higher player count.
Absolutely.
It's like even though you're technically doing the same thing and there's a way of scaling the game, it's not until you have all those things in motion that you're like, that's where this game really shines.
Yeah, so, and our poor friends, because obviously we've been like stockpiling all of our like multiplayer games, and so they're like, can we play that game again? And we're like, maybe one more time, and then we're going to move on to something else because we've got a queue of things. We've got so much to learn and teach you. Yeah. So that
we've kind of locked them in now. So we've kind of agreed to do a weekly almost board game club evening. Yeah, and I think just because everyone's been away from each other for so long that everyone's really excited to do that. So that makes me really excited. Yeah. And also things opened up kind of just in time for our 10-year anniversary. Yes.
Of our relationship.
Yes, our 10-year anniversary since we've been together. Yes.
Which obviously kind of snuck up on us, and we didn't realize that things were going to open up, and so we were like,
what are we going to do? There's nothing really that you can
There's not really anything you can do.
Yeah.
But what have we been talking about when we were in lockdown was two of our favorite places to go in Melbourne City there's this one little noodle shop and they serve biang biang noodles, which is this
so good.
This Szechuan kind of dish with lots of chili and these hand-pulled noodles and garlic.
Really thick as well, like thick noodles, buttery.
And the chew or the bite on them is just incredible. It's like the best $12 you can spend in Melbourne.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just amazing. It's just a bowl of noodles and it's so good. Anyway, so we were missing that. We're like, we have to go and have a bowl of noodles. Yeah. And the other thing was Maggie's favorite bubble tea.
Yeah. It's like the Taiwanese brown sugar bubble tea. So it's like brown sugar pearls.
Yes.
And it's just so good.
It's so good. There's two of them in the city. Now I've completely forgotten the name of it.
I don't know the name.
I've forgotten again. But they have like a wok that they have going all day, which has hot tapioca pearls mixed with melted brown sugar. And Maggie, like, I can't, like, it's too sweet for me. I can't have a whole bubble tea with brown sugar, but they have a soft serve.
Yes.
Which weirdly I can do, and I shouldn't have, but I ate the whole thing. But it's like a soft serve, and at the bottom of it is the hot tapioca pearls with,
And then the soft serve is kind of, big, I think it's like yogurt based, because it's a little bit sour.
It's a little
and so
tart,
it's like you have that sour and sweetness. It's so nice.
It is so nice. So anyway, so this was our big plan for our big anniversary. We were like...
Cheapest 10-year anniversary date ever.
I mean, it was a really cheap date.
That's all we wanted.
But what was also hilarious is that we parked in the city because it's so... Normally we don't drive into the city because it's usually busy, but it's like not because nothing's open. So we went in, we had our noodles, then we went and got our bubble tea.
Yeah, and everything is closed, so we couldn't really like walk around or do anything.
No, there's no going to a game store, no nothing. No. So then we went back to our car and put the ticket in to pay for our parking, and we'd been gone for 55 minutes.
Efficient.
That was
city date. Yeah.
The most efficient date
Hilarious.
ever.
Yeah.
Big celebrations of a 10-year anniversary. But actually we were rushing because it was quite cold, and we like kind of ate, and then we wanted to get home to play board games together, and then we spent the rest of the night playing board games together. So I mean, kind of perfect 10-year anniversary. Yeah. So there you go. We've got the first decade out of the way.
Out of the way.
Out of the way. Done.
It did go by fairly quickly. It felt.
Did. Yeah. I mean, the last 2 years don't even count, do they?
Well, yeah, there was sort of like, what is time? But
it's time.
You know,
Anyway, so we've been I've forgotten how exhausting like freedom is.
Socializing and hanging out. I did a lot of prep work leading into knowing that we were going to start socializing again, and that I'm naturally an introvert, and I kind of, tend to get very protective about making sure that I get my energy before, or if I'm socializing, that I'm still kind of taking some time to recharge. And so I'd actually done I had recruited. I'm doing a lot of like strength-based coaching work at work with colleagues, and I'd actually put them to the job of looking at my strength profile and going, what are the things that are going to be energizing for me going back into socializing? Knowing that listener is one of my things that I get drained by, but curiosity is one of the things that gives me energy. So I kept finding that I was like switching back into my curiosity mode, hanging out with friends, and that was actually really good. But it was very very deliberate, the way of kind of going back into because there was a lot of anxiety as well.
Yeah, because you are quite an introvert, generally speaking.
Yeah.
I was excited as well, but also slightly anxious, just after so long, and like thinking about everything, like, I don't know, wearing proper pants and like leaving the house. And
I've been wearing I've been wearing proper pants the whole time. Like I was one of those people that missed out on the whole like just wear your pajamas or wear tracksuit pants.
I wear tracksuit pants like every day at work. Even if I'm like full business for the Zoom call, I'm like tracksuit pants.
I don't know if it's because like I was already working from home before the pandemic hit, and so I was already used to just getting into full regular clothes, even if I'm just going to be around the house. So I missed that bit, but yeah, obviously no judgment.
Yeah, it feels a little judgy.
No judgment. Fine. But yeah.
I'm like, I want to have more tracksuit pants in my life moving forward.
Case in point, full body tracksuit.
Full body tracksuit.
Yeah,
that's where it's at. So we have some IAQs, and just a few of them today. Some of them are like bigger topics, but one coming from James was, imagine that it's in the future. Well, we are in the future because we're in Australia, so
already
a little bit in the future.
Yes.
And we're holding the first ThinkerThemer Con. Whew, that's even scary to think about. Which city is it in and why?
That's a great question. I have no idea. Interestingly, as you were saying in the future, I went like far, far future, like post-apocalyptic, like New Vegas sort of thing.
Oh, like the metaverse.
Yes, metaverse. Now that Facebook has changed to metaverse, it's like we're living in the metaverse, and so I don't know. I would kind of. It's so bizarre now to try and even think what the future might look like, because there's been so many curveballs in terms of the last couple of years. But I would like it to be somewhere that's fairly accessible for a lot of people, so that it's not, because Australia's great, but it's so difficult for people to get to come all the way here. Yeah. So somewhere more central would be great.
Also, if it's here, then we don't get to travel, and I like traveling.
Exactly. So now I'm thinking
we'll come to you first.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it's a bit of a road show. So there might be a couple of locations. So there's like a Europe kind of based one, or whatever Europe becomes. Yeah. And an American continent one, whatever the American continent becomes in this far, far future. Yeah.
Well, in the future, we would just meet in the metaverse.
Yeah, it's just we upload our consciousness to
we'll just
whatever.
Be avatars, and we can all join in the virtual ThinkerThemer Con and be playing virtually in person, but not actually in person.
So that was the worst non-answer answer.
We have also joked about having a con on wheels, where we would have a giant bus with tables and drive
which
around.
I enjoy in concept, but the logistics make me anxious because it's like, how many people can you really fit in that one? And then
not enough fresh
people
air
are going to be
either.
Missing out, and then do you just set up tables outside? It's just too much.
Too much.
So yeah,
and there's no way we could drive that bus.
Oh, definitely not.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Where would I want to have it? I mean, of course, like Mapleville in Vegas is really special to us. So and any excuse to go back there.
Absolutely.
So definitely we would do that. We are looking to head to some cons next year. We're going to Dice Tower West. So that is confirmed now.
Fingers crossed.
As far as we know, that is confirmed, and our Australian borders are open. So we're allowed to travel as of, I think, tomorrow or the next day. Yeah. Well, as of when we're recording this, it will be open for travel from New South Wales and some of our states. Yeah. It's a bit strange. But yeah, we can actually go overseas. So we are planning to be at Dice Tower West. We also might make it even back for Gen Con because we have tickets that have rolled over twice. So we might be back for Gen Con. And then obviously we would love to get to Essensspiel in 2022, but I don't know, that's a lot of like big trips in one year.
That is a lot of trips,
we'll see how we go. Maybe we can make it to some more local game days and things, and just try to get to as many places we want as we can. And, you know, obviously we really want to get to all the postcard destinations as well and like meet up with everybody. And
that might be a
be
2023 or 2024.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll get around to different places. So, so sorry, that was such a non-answer.
Yeah. Ideally somewhere central or easy for people to come from different locations.
Yeah, but in terms of an actual ThinkerThemer con, I think that's a bit overwhelming for us to think about planning.
It's not something that we'd be able to undertake by ourselves. We'd have to get to a point where we can like
to get some help from somewhere.
Organizers that know what they're doing in terms of events management.
Yeah, we might just have to meet you all at a con. So
yes, I think let's start with
that. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, James, for that question. Yes. And then I have one from Shelm. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Do you dream about board games?
I have in the past.
Have you?
Yeah. I think initially when I was first getting into the hobby, I remember we would be playing Dominion and we'd be playing a lot of Splendor at the time, and I would dream of like strategies and things because we didn't have the copies of the games, and so I would be like, my mind would be working overtime trying to think, okay, what else could I try? And so often if I'm kind of
But in the dream, you were strategizing about your
in the dream, so it's like the dream would be almost like a close-up of the different cards or things that the things that I wanted to try or that I'd be playing, and almost like playing it out.
Was there any like fantasy element, you know, like the Splendor things that come to life?
No, nothing was coming to life or anything like that. And
there was a Dominion festival happening.
This is how soloist this was. It's like there wasn't even anyone there. It was just like
a
close-up.
I mean, why would I be there?
There's no way I'd
be there.
It
is a dream after all.
Like, it's like darkness, but it's just a close-up. It's just a close-up of what the cards are, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have never dreamt about a game. No, not even.
Have you dreamt about playing? Like hanging out and playing?
No, board games do not feature in my dreams.
What do you dream about?
What do I dream about? I usually have like really boring like day in the life dreams where different things. The other night, remember how I woke up and I told you that I dreamt that ants were crawling all over me? But like,
I don't remember that.
Yeah. It woke me up, and then I was like, maybe you were half asleep. And you're like,
probably.
Whatever.
Like, you're fine.
But actually, like, you know when you have a nightmare.
Oh, no, I do remember. Yes, I do remember.
And it wakes you up. I was covered in bull ants, and bull ants are vicious in Australia. I don't know if they are anywhere else, but they bite. And they were those ones with the like big red, like
big bums,
butts. Yeah. I don't know what that was. Maybe there was an ant on me. Maybe I was asleep and there was an ant on me. I don't know what was happening.
Maybe it's just like one of your own, like your hair just kind of tickled you and you're like, it's an ant, I'm covered in ants.
But you know how they say you know how they say they have like when you have dreams it means something.
They can smell your fear? No, that's not ants.
No, dreams. When you have dreams they mean something. Like people say if you dream about your teeth falling out, then that is that you're harboring a secret.
What? Yeah. I've dreamt about that a lot, and I thought that it was because I'm the daughter of a dentist, and my mom would dream about it, and she'd be like, why? Like she would have this like, how could you let your teeth get to the point where they're falling out? And so I always assumed that it was because there was like a lot of teeth talk.
Right. So it could be that your mum's a dentist, or it could be that you're a closeted lesbian.
That could have been it.
Could have been the secret. Harboring some secret. Yeah, that's right. But I was curious as to what covered in ants meant, but then I didn't want to look it up because I didn't really want to know. I didn't want to know what was going on in here. I'd just rather think about the ants than deal with whatever's
suppressed.
Whatever's going on there.
In the subconscious.
That's right. So thank you for that interesting question. I don't dream about games. I don't know. I spend my life in games, but not my dream time.
Your day life.
Yeah,
but not your dream life.
Andy asked a couple of questions. Were we gamers before we met, or was one of us a gamer and the other not, or did we discover the hobby together?
We were both video gamers before we met.
Yes, we were.
But we discovered the hobby very much together because it was through one of your friends. And they invited us over for dinner, and then they're like, hey, do you want to play a board game? And we're like, yeah, of course. What, like Monopoly? No, not like Monopoly. Like Dominion. It's like,
It was at the same time. There was two groups of friends, really, because we started playing Carcassonne, I think.
Yeah, with another group. Yeah.
Around the same time. It just kind of came into our world, and then we just took it and really ran with it. Because even the friends that introduced us to Carcassonne, we well surpassed
past them in terms of our obsession of there's still people that we play with, but and that love games, but they didn't become as obsessed as we did.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. We are gamers from way back, and like I was like an arcade rat. I was just always at arcades. In university, all of my appliances were bought with tickets. Like,
that's pretty awesome.
Like all of them. Like I had coffee machine, blender, everything was time zone tickets. And I used to go after school with my best friend in high school, and we would play Point Blank like all afternoon. That was one of my favorite games. And so I've just always had a love for arcade games. Played some console games. Like when we met, we would play, like it was around the time of like SingStar, because I remember playing that when we just first met, and it was really awkward singing in front of each other.
It was funny because that's how I knew how strategic you were, because when we were playing, like I was just kind of like messing around or whatever, but then you'd sing very, very low, but hitting all the notes, so it's like maximizing the points. So I was like, interesting.
Oh, well, I don't have a great singing voice, so I have to focus on something.
Singing voice. Yeah.
Anyway, and so we've played Xbox together. We had generations of like.
That was one of my favorite, like when we'd play like Halo together.
Yeah, which is weird because I was reflecting on this in the Discord, and we played Halo cooperatively, and we don't play cooperatively now. So we like cooperative, and we play, what's the kitchen one?
Oh yeah, kitchen Overcooked.
Overcooked. Yes. We play that cooperatively.
That is very stressful.
I love it.
Yeah.
But we don't play board games cooperatively. That is very strange. Very strange.
I wonder if it's because
I actually love cooperative video games, like especially when you're on the same screen. Yeah. I don't like the split screen.
That is bizarre. Yeah. We'll have to analyze that more deeply at some point. Figure it out.
How interesting. Yeah. Yes. So sorry to answer your question. We discovered the hobby together.
Yes.
We went to Gen Con.
Yes.
2016.
Because it was the year Scythe was.
And we'd already been playing for like probably at least a year, or two before that. Yeah, and then that also just cemented the hobby, and we just more and more and more. And obviously, starting this channel, it's been a whole other layer to getting into board games and understanding board games.
New level unlocked.
New level. We've earned a new badge.
Yes.
And let's see what else. When we are away, because we travel quite often, who looks after Boston? Actually, our gaming group.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so our gaming group is really one other couple, and they love Boston. They've looked after Boston many, many, many times, and so they just love having him, which is great for us because we travel a lot.
Yes,
and so
very convenient.
Yeah,
very handy.
Yes,
we're very grateful for that.
Very good friends of ours. And then James and Jess, who sent us the postcard and the Hanafuda card, said if board games wasn't our hobby, what would our hobby be?
Well, take a pick. We have a lot of hobbies.
You have a lot of hobbies.
I have a lot of hobbies that come and go. So I go through them. I explore them. Probably, I think video games would probably feature more prominently. I think we definitely still would have gotten into the VR headsets, regardless of whether or not we had discovered board gaming, which is still kind of video games. Well, recently we got into ceramics.
Yeah, we
pottery,
do.
Yeah,
we do.
That
like
one didn't
to try
really
different
take
hobbies.
on, but I think we really enjoyed it. But with all the lockdowns and stuff, it meant that we couldn't go to the studio to do all the stuff. I don't even know what happened with the pieces that we were working on.
I know they're still.
I don't know if they fired them and got them. I don't know.
I don't know.
What else? What else have we?
I know exactly what my hobby would be if it wasn't board games, because it's been directly proportionate as my love for board games has increased.
Yeah.
My amount of cooking has decreased significantly. So that used to be my sole focus. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like my sole focus was always food. I also think like there was a big wave of like that foodie wave, and I went in deep. I was like, it was, instead of like, I didn't ever formally review things, but I love to like always be in the know about like food and food techniques and restaurants. And we've spent a lot of time traveling to go to restaurants that I've wanted to go to, and like find that one food that's like some little like tiny little place. Like, I was just thinking about the laksa place in Singapore.
That was amazing.
All they do is this incredible laksa.
Best laksa I've ever had in my life.
So good. But as it's weird, as board games has increased in our life, especially since starting the channel, and maybe it's partly lockdown as well, because for me, cooking was so much about other people and so maybe it'll come back. Maybe it'll come back.
Maybe.
But board games are here to stay. So
Yes.
for me, and I don't cycle through that many hobbies generally.
I do cycle through hobbies.
Yeah.
So who knows what
Yeah.
else I would have gone into.
It wouldn't have been any one thing in particular. It would just be whatever the
whole
next thing
series
is.
of things, yeah.
Whatever the next thing is.
Yeah.
But thank you for the question. And that is all of our IAQs.
There you go.
If you'd like to ask us a question, please drop it in the comments below. And again, if we've missed one of your questions along the way, I apologize. Please drop it in again and we will make sure to answer it in the next episode.
Yeah.
But for now, we've got some games to talk about.
All right.
So the first game is actually Cartographers, which is a roll and write game that I was really surprised we hadn't covered before.
Flip and write, technically.
A flip and write game in the roll and write category, flip and write category.
Genre.
Yeah, and this game is all about polyomino shapes. And actually, the reason why this game kind of came back onto our radar and thought we'd talk about it today is that on the weekend we were part of Shucks.
Yes.
And so Shucks 21 was a virtual con, obviously run by the Shut Up and Sit Down crew. And we had the opportunity to be on that live, which was amazing. It was very early our time. It was 7:50 a.m. on a Sunday. So Maggie, I tend to get up early.
I'm not a morning person.
Maggie's not really an early person, but we caffeinated and we were ready to go. And we had the opportunity to play with Mandy Hutchinson from the Dice Tower.
We've been
Ruel.
big fans for a long time.
Such a long
was
time.
Like a hold yourself, don't show how much you're fangirling right now.
And likewise for Ruel Gaviola, who we love and we've known for quite a while now and has been a big part of our journey and runs the Tabletop Live network on Twitch. And also Matt Lees, of course, from Shut Up and Sit Down. And when they contacted us, Matt said, would you like to be a part of Shucks? And we were like, well, we'd love to, but now that you've contacted us, we've actually decided that that's it for us.
Yeah, it's like that. Like,
we can pack up
to...
ThinkerThemer and move on with our lives.
Yeah. It's like main storyline complete. It's like now it's just side questing.
Exactly. And we were really excited because obviously
we're very grateful and very
huge admirers of their channel and just the way that they the effort that they put into all their reviews.
It was actually very weird to because we listened to so much Shut Up and Sit Down and we listened to so much of Dice Tower with Mandy and then to be playing a game with those voices, but you're also looking at them, but that you have, and even like Ruel, you watch a lot of the Twitch stream. It's like these people that you have that have been with you in a way for so many hours and so many different. We'll be traveling back in the day when we could travel, and we'd be on a long car journey and we'd have the podcast on. So it's just it was bizarre in a really beautiful way.
It was, and they were all so lovely, and they're just as lovely in person as you would think they are, and just what a wonderful community. That was really exciting. But we did play Cartographers.
Yes.
I did win.
I lost horribly. Which is fine.
But I think it was a fluke that I won, because I'm actually not like Maggie. We've been playing this a lot recently and you have been beating me a lot.
I've redeemed myself, at least within the household.
Yeah, but I do want to show the two different versions that we have. We've put them all in a tower and not put it at the top. Because recently on Kickstarter there was this collector's edition of Cartographers, which includes a few different things. I should explain what the game is. But in this game, you are turning cards, and on each of those cards is a polyomino tile, 1 or 2, and different terrain types. And you're going to be mapping those like a cartographer would onto a map. And you're trying to fit them all around each other. But interestingly, you have 4 different scoring conditions. And that's the real cleverness of this game, is that you're going to be going through 4 seasons in this game. And they are going to be associated with different scoring conditions that are going to repeat themselves throughout the different seasons. So you have A, B, C, and D, and they will all be different conditions for scoring points. And in the first summer, you will be scoring A and B. And then in the next season, you'll be scoring B and C, and then C and D, and then D and A.
Yeah.
And so you are kind of trying to time when you have built up to meet these scoring conditions, which are generally around placing certain types of terrain together. So you might need to have a full column of like the trees, or you might need to have blank squares surrounding like the little house. What's the house called?
I imagine like the estates. I've
forgotten what it's
like
called.
Residential area.
Yeah. But basically you're trying to collect points, you're trying to collect coins, and really this game is super clever. There's one little element in it that has a bit of take that, and that is the addition of the monsters.
Yes, the monsters are cool.
The monsters, they have like their own little symbol, but what's interesting about it is that you're drawing a shape, a polyomino shape, on your opponent's sheet, and so it will tell you which way to pass the map around the table, and you'll be placing a shape, and then when you get your map back, you really want to surround that shape as quickly as possible, because for each adjacent square that's next to that monster, you're going to lose basically a point.
And I always forget that, and again it comes to the scoring, and it's like, minus 10 points for Maggie.
So it's super annoying, and you can mess with other players in that sense, but for the most part it is like a multiplayer solitaire type puzzle, because you're just trying to be as efficient as possible to meet all of those scoring conditions, and kind of keep your eye on the future ones as well, because you'll be getting shapes that you don't necessarily need this season but might be useful for a later season. Now on Kickstarter recently, and this has just kind of turned up at our house, there's this collector's edition. In the collector's edition there are more maps. And the extra maps for me was the most exciting part about this collector's edition. It also came with heroes, and so heroes are really a way to combat those monsters. It comes with more monsters, which are a little bit more challenging as well, and it also comes with, I was just thinking what else, that we also picked up the mini skills expansion. There's 2 different expansions there where you can kind of spend coins along the way to like do one-off benefits to yourself. So there's a whole heap of goodies, but what is also really cool is you get colored pencils.
That is so good, because then the resulting map is just so colorful and so fun.
Yeah, and a lot of people I know have purchased stamps to use, because each of... Sorry, our Boston is...
You want to come up? No, he doesn't. I was just going to be annoying.
Boston's just being annoying. What was I saying? I was saying about the color. Yeah, so a lot of people have stamps and use different colored pencils anyway. And so now you can, like when you're drawing trees, you can use green, and when you're doing the houses, it's in red, and that's really fun. But I think if you don't have the base game and you can't get your hands on the collector's edition, the base game is just...
The base game is
brilliant.
Great
by itself. Brilliant. That's what we played on stream. And it is still excellent. It's really good. And I think it's one that like kind of everyone should have in their collection. It's a really great game.
The other thing is with this one is the mat. So I think...
we purchased that extra, but there's a neoprene mat that we also picked up. Of course, I like to have like completionist
love
style
your neoprene mats, which are really fun to like... You don't really get to use it that much. It just kind of helps lay out things, because you're not often picking up cards from them.
And I have to say, like, when we're playing this, it's a lot of fun, but there are parts that, like, I'm not a big fan of the heroes, actually.
I really like the heroes, but I know that you're not really a fan of them. I never use the skills. Like, I find that, like, I read them and I go, I guess I could do that, but I always kind of feel like I either forget about them or I don't really want to spend my coins on them. So I like having my coins.
I use the skills occasionally, but for me, it's not an essential part of the game. The skills expansion is not essential. The heroes is not essential.
I agree.
But the maps, I think, really add a new element.
And difficulty, because it's like a different challenge. There's the one with the volcano that it's sort of interesting, like the lava as it extends and it can destroy things.
I love the islands.
The islands are tough.
That was really hard.
You have to find the opportunities to connect them, and that'll cost you coins, and you can only build on islands that you've connected, but also they're so tiny. that often whatever goal you're trying to achieve, it's really, it adds a lot of tension, I found. And our scores tend to be lower.
And then the final one is like the underground city kind of idea.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but it felt, I feel like by far, if I want a real challenge, I'll be using those islands.
Yeah, I think the islands was my favorite too, but they do add another element to the game that doesn't require like a lot of reading of cards to find out what all those different cards do. So that's probably why we were more attracted to the maps than anything else. But I am really happy to have this collector's edition, and of course we will be hanging on to all of it. So that is Cartographers. Yeah, really great game. I just like in general.
Absolutely.
In general, it's such a great roll and write. Like it's an essential now. It really is so much fun to draw those Tetris style pieces.
And almost like mindfulness exercise, because like it's very relaxing. You're kind of drawing and you're kind of, and I think probably, would you say it's a good introduction to flip and writes?
Yeah, I like
the barrier to entry is very low.
Yeah, I've taught some of our friends who are like only mildly into games, but because it's like the Tetris familiarity, I think it's just a really it's a good. I think that some of the scoring conditions can be a little bit hard to understand at first, but as long as at the beginning of the game you talk through those slowly and make sure everyone understands which ones are scoring each season.
That was what I was going to say. Reminding that, remember at the end of this we're going to be scoring these ones.
A and B and C or whatever it is. Yeah, so that is Cartographers.
Nice. All right, the next one is a game called The Road, which this was recently backed. We recently just backed this one.
Came through so quickly.
Kickstarter. And The Road is a solo game, which interestingly, Amy was actually more excited about this one when we were talking about backing it.
I was really excited about it.
Oh yeah, that looks fine.
It's because I actually watched a playthrough of it, and I could see like mechanically it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And so when we got it, I was actually really excited to open it and play it. And I think I played it before you. You were watching me, but I was playing it. Yeah.
And then I ended up playing it more times.
Yes, you did. Then I moved on. But,
I was like,
but anyway.
So in The Road, we are playing in a kind of post-apocalyptic world, and we're just trying to survive for 6 days. And there's kind of like a destination that we're trying to reach. And so what we're going to be doing is every day, at the start of the day, we're going to be making a selection between two possible roads or two possible paths that we can take, and each one will have different number of road cards essentially that we're going to have to play out. And obviously, when we're playing those road cards, there's going to be different types of events or encounters or places that we're going to be coming across. And depending on what that is, some of them are going to be potentially good. So we might find, for example, like an abandoned caravan, and then you have the option of often you have the option of bypassing it, and that might cost you either energy, or it might damage you, like cost you a bit of heart or life, or morale, or you can kind of explore it, and then you'd be using your encounter deck. So with the encounter deck is, again, that's another kind of element of, what's this going to be? With the encounters, the way that works is really interesting, because as you reveal them, usually it's going to be, often it's a character, and that character can either attack, or they can trade with you, or they might become an ally, or they might even give you something. But the way that you decide, or it decides whether or not they attack or they trade with you or something else happens, is on the back of the next card. So it's the back of the deck. The next card, they have different icons, and so it's a matter of matching the icon to the icon on the card, and that's how you determine whether they're attacking or trading with you, which is quite fun when they're trading with you, because then you can go through the deck of different items. And so that's essentially what you're going to be doing. After doing that, often, once you kind of get through that encounter, there's often going to be a bonus of findings or elements or things that you're going to be able to put in your backpack. That might be weapons that help you in future encounters if you're attacked. It might be things that'll help you heal up, or it might be things that help with all sorts of different, stamina or whatever.
And they'll weigh you down as well.
And so your capacity to carry things will diminish as the days go on. I believe it's like you start with a capacity of 6, and then it goes 5 and 4 of weight. But then you can, one of the items that you may pick up along the way may allow you to expand your capacity of things. So there's a lot. There's not a lot of story. There's no story to read, but it becomes, every time you play, it's quite a thematic tale that unfolds.
Yeah.
And then you're making that decision of like, oh, you can always ignore or go, oh, I don't really want to face that.
Yeah.
So you have an option of
bypass,
but not just bypass. This is finding a different
turnaround,
an alternative route or route, and that means that then you're gonna have to use additional road cards.
Yeah, because there's 6 days that you have to survive, and each day is like a stretch of road, and that road is each of the cards that you're going to be turning over. So a road is of all different lengths. So for example, you might start with 4 road cards, and then you're going to be turning them over in succession. And when you turn one over, it's like Maggie said, something that is going to happen. Like there's a dust storm or something.
Yeah.
And your options are either you can turn around, but if you turn around, it's going to add more road, which is more obstacles, or you can go through. But in order to go through, you need to have a certain piece of equipment already, or you need to take damage or whatever it is. And I just I really enjoyed a lot of the mechanical things about it, because it's kind of like a choose your own adventure in a little bit of,
absolutely.
Because you're like, well, which is the lesser evil here?
Yeah.
Or I'll take my luck or take my chances on having an encounter, see what happens there. Yeah. And it's difficult.
It's hard. I still haven't been able to win it. And I remember
I thought you won the last game.
So did I. And I was like, oh, I won. And I screamed it out.
She did.
Amy, I won. And then I was like, and then I didn't realize that there were a couple of cards. Sometimes you can pick up these fatality cards that that happen usually as part of the encounters. Even sometimes an encounter that might be positive, might be a trade encounter, it might be an ally, but then you also pick up a fatality card, and they're like a nasty surprise at the end of the day that usually impacts on one of your stats or multiple of your stats. And so I hadn't realized that even though I got to the end, it had I had 2 fatality cards, and I was like, oh,
fake win.
No. And so when I had a look, it's like, because the other thing is you can't, if you run out of cards in the road deck, then you also lose. And I was a bit in that game, I was a bit too happy with going, no, I don't want to face that. I'm going to draw more cards.
Okay.
Yeah, I overdid it. So I still haven't been able to, I almost did, but I still haven't been able to win it.
And I don't play solo games, but I was really excited to play this. I don't mind playing a solo game if Maggie's there and we're talking, like you're like watching me and I'm like, oh, I've got to win because Maggie's watching me. But and generally speaking, I don't get excited about playing a game by myself because I'm all about the interaction. Yeah. But this one, I'm like, maybe I should give that another go. Like, that was kind of fun.
That was fun. And I found myself kind of just picking it up and playing another kind of quick game.
And it's so much game in just like this little box because all the different types of cards. Yeah. I believe that the designer has a lot of different solo games, and a lot of them are available print and play. I'm not sure if this one is yet. I think maybe it is. Yeah. So if you can't find it in a printed copy, we were lucky to get an English edition because they had limited print run.
It's not very language dependent.
No, it's not. It's a lot of just symbols, really.
Yeah. So and obviously the rules, the manuals, the rules for it are available online.
Yes.
Or like a PDF, and that's in English. Most of it is iconography. So,
yeah, that's right. Yep. So check it out if you're a solo gamer.
That was quite nice. I enjoyed it.
It's pretty good.
The Road.
It's called The Road. Now,
right.
The next game is another classic. We're into the classics this fortnight, and it's called Jaipur.
Probably one of our earlier 2-player games that we ever played.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And this one came back on my radar because I was chatting to Sarah, who's part of Board Game Barbecue or Tabletop Source, and her and I just wanted to catch up on the phone, actually, or actually it was through Discord, but we wanted to talk. And we needed like a kind of light game to play while we were talking, and we were playing Jaipur on BGA, and it reminded me of how I lost spectacularly, but it reminded me of how fun and interesting this game is. So in this game, it's basically about kind of set collection, and what you're going to be doing is there is a market of cards in front of you. It's 2-player only.
Yes.
And you're going to be trying to bring cards into your hand to make sets of different types of goods. And on your turn, you only get 2 choices. Either you can bring new goods into your hand, or you can sell some of the goods in your hand. And the reason why there's tension in this game is because of the way that it scores. So like in lots of different games, you've got a stack of points tokens for each of the different types of goods that run down in descending order. So the top one, or the first person to sell a particular type of good, is going to get the most points, and then it's going to go down from there. So you want to kind of try and wait and collect as many as you can, but then you also are keeping an eye on your opponent, because you don't want them to sell that type of good first.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is that if you can sell 3, 4, or 5 of the same type of good, you also get a bonus, which is going to give you a lot more victory points on top of that score. So there's that tension between waiting and gathering more cards or selling them on. The other really interesting thing mechanically is the use of camels in this game. So there are camel cards. At the beginning of the game, there's going to be a market of 5 cards, as well as 5 cards in everybody's hand. And whenever you get a camel, instead of going into your hand, it goes into your herd, which is in front of you. And basically, if you want to take multiple cards out of the market, so if you want to take 1 card out of the market, you can just take 1 good, and you have to then replace it from the deck. But if you want to take 2 goods, you have to swap those 2 goods with either cards from your hand, so other goods, or camels. If you want to take camels from the market, you have to take all the camels. So I know that's really hard to grasp if you're not sitting in front of the game. But what makes it interesting is that you can make sure that your opponent often has no goods to choose from and all camels, because you replace the goods you're taking with camels. And that means that there's a lot of laughter, because often you leave the person with no choice but to take all 5 camels, because that's all that's in the market, which means that they take the camels, clear the market, and you get 5 new goods cards to choose from, which is exciting.
Yeah, but then also once you have all those camels, that means that you can go in, if there's a lot of good stuff in the market, you can then go, I'm get a full set in one go.
Take them all and swap them all out for camels.
Clever.
So it does create this like interesting tension of like, giving your opponent camels, swapping out the camels. You also get a bonus if you get 5 victory points at the end of the game if you have the most camels, so sometimes it's advantageous. But it's just like such a contained little game.
It's very simple but very, very good, like very effective in terms of...
It's really easy to teach. I took it to work and taught one of my work colleagues in like 5 minutes, like
very quickly as well. So you can kind of go, okay, cool, again.
Super fast, and you just you actually play 3 rounds, and it's like, I guess, the best out of 3. So a super fun little game.
Usually just 2 rounds, because Amy always beats me. It's like, I win. Okay, that's the end.
But a great little compact game, one that would probably never leave our collection, and definitely a classic. So check it out if you haven't already. 2 players only. That is Jaipur.
The next game is another 2-player only game.
Another 2-player
and another
only game.
Classic as well, and that is 7 Wonders Duel. This game is so good.
It's so good.
Again, like, what did we... because we were looking at the leftover track, the what do you call them? The scorecards, the score sheets.
Oh yeah.
And we saw how like there was a time where we were playing it. We played
in
a lot of them.
2016.
Yeah, in 2016 we played a lot of them. Actually, I wonder if it's because we took it with us to. That was the year that we went to Gen Con. So I wonder.
Yeah, we did travel with it. We took it everywhere. Actually, this game is in terrible shape. Like the cards are all bent,
well
and it's
loved.
It's been very, very well loved. Yeah.
So in 7 Wonders Duel, similar to 7 Wonders, we are trying to build, an incredible civilization. In 7 Wonders Duel, there's a few different ways that you can win. So one of them is by getting military supremacy. So you've got this nifty little military tracker that makes things very tense in the middle of the table, because every time you get that military, those icons, then you get to push it those many spaces towards your opponent, and if it manages to make it all the way to the end, then that's an immediate stops the game and you win if that happens. So it's a military supremacy. The other one is science. I think it's like science, again, like advancement. So if you manage to get one of each of the science symbols, you win. That's never really happened with us, because they can be quite tricky to
but just
collect
to take
all
a
of them.
little step back, you're drafting these cards from
good point.
Yes, which is kind of the main mechanism in this game.
Yes, from this over 3 different ages. You have these beautifully constructed, I still don't know what it's called when you overlap. It's kind of like pyramids in a way, where you're overlapping the cards.
Yeah, and it's been done in other games, but we always just refer to it as the Seven Wonders Duel
the Seven
mechanic.
Wonders Duel mechanic. Yeah, I'm sure it's got an official name. But obviously you can only take the cards that are unblocked. Yeah, so the ones that are kind of revealed and unblocked. And so,
but you can see what's coming in different layers.
Yeah,
That's what makes it tricky.
Yeah, so some of them are showing, some of them are hidden, and so that's wonderful. And then the other thing is, if neither of those two winning conditions happen, then at the end of the game is whoever has the most points, because there's a lot of different ways of getting points. The other thing is you have these wonders, like different wonders, 4 wonders that you might be aiming for, and if you get to 7 in total, so between the two of you, then again that also can trigger the end of game. But they can, again, they use up some of the resources that you're building from getting those cards, but they also give you nice little benefits, and sometimes allow you to play immediately straight away, or give you other goodies.
And I love the tension in this game where it's a trade-off between getting cards that give you more resources to help you build those wonders, or cards that keep you ahead on the military track, or cards that are not really useful at the beginning, but at the end they give you a lot of victory points. So there's a lot of tension built into this game, and because of that card system that Maggie mentioned, on your turn you have to take a card, and whether you take it and use it, or you take it and destroy it, or you take it to build one of your wonders, you have to take a card, which creates this really tense puzzle, because I know that Maggie just needs one military card to win the game, for example. And I can see that if I take this card, then she will have access to that card.
It's a lot of planning.
So it's just like, but then if I take that one next, is it all over for me? And it's just really fun. This is I love this game. It is so good.
Also, the ability of burning a card. So when you're getting those cards, you can always decide to exchange them just for coins, because coins is one of those things.
Yeah, some of the cards you have to pay money to build.
And sometimes, and if you haven't built the cards that give you certain resources, you can buy or pay for those resources. The interesting thing with that, again, it's based on Boston's going to be like photobombing
annoying
in the background. That's fine. She's going to be whinging away. But you can pay for those resources. But the interesting thing of that is the cost is based on how many of that resource your opponent has. So if someone's really stacked up their clay or their wood and you've got nothing, all of a sudden it's going to be very expensive for you if you need to build anything that requires those resources.
And it's such a great two-player implementation of Seven Wonders. Good. And Seven Wonders is a game that I always really liked. I like it more on BGA. Since we've been playing it on BGA. And I always found it a little short in person, when we first got Seven Wonders, way back in the day. But this one I really, really love. I think that if you love Euro games, this is a great two-player Euro feeling game.
This is probably one of the best Euro feeling games in a small box.
It is.
That's sort of captured so many of those goodies.
So like many of the games we're talking about today, this is also an excellent game to have in your collection, and one that I'd be happy to teach anyone anytime. It's really great. That is Seven Wonders Duel.
Great to travel to.
Yeah.
Finally, this is
final
all you.
All me. Not surprisingly, the final game that we'll be talking about is Dvonn. And I don't know if that's how you say it, but I assume that's the only way you can really say it. Dvonn is a game that is part of the GIF project. I don't know how to say that either. But basically, it's a series of abstract games that all have strange titles. This is one of the least strange titles. And they usually have just one single concept or idea about them. And they all play quite differently. And usually it only requires some kind of grid-like board and then a number of different plastic pieces. Now, in Dvonn, you are using basically a grid board, as I mentioned, but it's triangular, there's kind of lines intersecting each other that create these triangles, and where you have the intersecting lines is where all the pieces are going to be. In this game, you only play as black or white, like in chess, and you divide up all of the pieces. And then the first thing you're going to be doing is placing those pieces out onto the board. And so there's, if Maggie was white, she's placing one of her white pieces and I'm placing one of my black pieces. And you do that until the whole board is covered. You also place the 3 Dvonn pieces, which are 3 red discs. They're all discs. They're actually really cool, really heavy plastic discs.
That is very satisfying.
And
like the shape of them and the way they kind of stack.
They click in together. They stack on top of each other really well. Because what you're going to be doing in this game, once everything is filled up, you are going to be moving your pieces and kind of jumping on top of another piece. As soon as your piece is on top of another piece, you own that stack. So and one of the rules is that if a piece is surrounded by 6 pieces, it cannot move. So in the start of the game, you can only move the pieces from the outside edge. So I might take my black piece and stack it on top of one of Maggie's, and now it's a 2 stack owned by me because there's black on top. If I was to move that piece again, now it has to move 2 spaces. And once it moves and it is on top of another piece, now it has to move 3 spaces. And so what happens is you are building up and creating like little stacks all around the board. A further element that is so cool about this game, I love this game, is that the Dvonn pieces, the red pieces, you have to be connected to one of those at any time. Otherwise, the pieces fall off the board. So if you were to take control of one of those red pieces, and for example, because if you go on top of it, you own that stack now, and then
You
control it. You could move it out of the way, and if that was the only connecting red piece to a whole heap of other stacks, all of those stacks fall off the board. Which means that you can be very strategic about making your opponent's stacks fall off the board, because at the end of the game, all you're going to do is take all of the stacks that for me would have a black token on top, for Maggie a white token on top, and stack them all up together and see who has the tallest tower or who controls the most pieces. It's such a simple concept, but the depth in this game is really incredible. If you like abstract games, the way that you are trying to watch those 3 red pieces, but also plan ahead. So because you have to move the number of pieces in the stack, you're like, well, I want to take over Maggie's stack over there, but in order to do that, I have to move this piece here and make it a 2, and then that 2 over here, and then finally that 3 could then move over to Maggie's piece. So there's a lot of like strategy that goes into that. And also, it's just so easy to take each other's stack that the game state is constantly changing. So it'd be like, oh, I'm winning, and then a key piece gets like separated away from a Dvonn piece, and like half the board gets destroyed, and you're like, wow, I've got to start from scratch. So I of course love this game. I have played other ones in the series. This is still my favorite. I own, I think, 1 or 2 other ones, but this is just, this is my favorite so far.
For me, it's far too abstract. So even though I can appreciate the cleverness of how simple yet elegant the mechanics are, I find it very, very difficult to get into it. And like I might have like one giggle if I do something that I'm like, ha ha. But that's very rare. And again, it's not usually the thing that I enjoy.
But you're pretty good at it. Like,
but I'm not going to say that I enjoy the process. I'm kind of going, like just sort of willing it to be over.
Worse than that,
what you want to be when you're playing.
Totally tell that Maggie hates. As soon as I bring this out, and I'm like, oh, what about Dvonn? It's just like whingy face, like playing, and it's just like, wow, this is really fun for me.
Well, it's because it's like I love. Yeah, it's like, even though the pieces are quite cool, like the way that it's plastic, but it's like they're just so satisfying, the shape and the way that they click on top of each other. Yeah, they stack. But it's like, there's just nothing, it's just it just feels so purposeless to me, because it's like the only thing that you're going to gain from this
is beating the other person. That's the purpose.
I have nil interest in that. So,
but if you do like abstract games, seriously, this is one of my favorites. I have a good friend who loves abstract games, but he lives quite far away. But anytime he's in town, we will sit down and play a good abstract game. And him and I go, very, very close, very head to head on this game. And just one that I absolutely love. So actually, we've covered a lot of games that we love today. That one is Dvonn. And so thank you for tuning in to another episode of Small Talk. We've really obviously been enjoying this series, and we're going to try and do the live premiere thing again when we can, if we're able to stay up, because we do release it quite late.
Yeah, it's quite late.
Yeah, but we'll see how we go.
School night.
It is on a school night.
Yes.
But we'll see how we go. But thank you so much for all the love and support in the comments always. Even though I'm, sometimes being back at work and back in the real world, it makes it harder. It takes me longer to get back to everybody, but we read every single one of them, and we really, really appreciate. Check out Maggie's solo review of Sleeping Gods if you haven't already. We better go take our dog for a walk. Boston is definitely ready for a walk. He's super annoying.
I need attention. I can't believe you've ignored me for an hour.
I'm sorry. Are you filming? Let me go over the
extra annoying.
It's like he hasn't been near us all morning.
He's been sleeping,
but now he's just like, hey. So
you
would have seen him wandering around. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back with more videos soon. But bye for now.
Bye.